Welcome to another episode of Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. We have ESPN national correspondent Sal Paolantonio, the great Sal Pal, on the program today to preview Giants, Eagles, and the return of Saquon Barkley. This interview is brought to you by MyBookie, which is celebrating its 10th anniversary and is rolling out the red carpet for sports bettors. Use the promo code PATSPICKS at the link in all my social media profiles to get a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. Let's win with MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Also brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order, and if you use the discount code TalkingBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, you'll get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. Also brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. It takes me 10 seconds to make an iced coffee with Estate 98 and only a minute more to make hot coffee or latte. Use the link estate98.com/talkingball for a special buy one, get one free deal today. And now on to our interview with the great Sal Pal. All right, welcome back to Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. A special guest this week, ESPN national correspondent Sal Paolantonio, the great Sal Pal. How Football Explains America by the great Sal Pal. A new version of this is out now. Get it anywhere books are sold, in paperback. It's all over the internet. Order it now today. How Football Explains America. Sal's here to explain to us Giants, Eagles, NFC East rivalry, Saquon Barkley's return to the Meadowlands. Sal, thank you so much for being here.
And thank you for mentioning the book. It was a labor of love over many years, came out almost 15 years ago, believe it or not, Pat. But the publisher wanted to republish it, re-release it in a new version. It's how and why the game was created and how culture in America shaped the game of tackle football through the decades. And it's taught in a lot of schools around the country. And I'm happy it's had a long shelf life. When you write a book, you never know, right, Pat?
That's right. I still have not written one, Sal. One day when I publish one.
I keep saying, Pat, you got to write a book, Pat.
When I publish it, you will be in the acknowledgments because it will be in part because you have pushed me to do it. And so we start there with the depth of knowledge you have about the game of football and about the NFL. And it informs our conversation today about a riveting game coming up in the Meadowlands. The NFC East, a lot of teams are imperfect, but there has never been more emotion, more of a heated nature to this Eagles-Giants rivalry with Saquon Barkley coming back up I-95 in the New Jersey Turnpike to MetLife Stadium. And so we start there. I want to ask you, Sal, up here in New York, in New Jersey, everybody knows the Giants desperately have to win this game. But in Philadelphia, is this a must-win for the Eagles, or can they lose this game and still find their footing down the road?
It'll be hard to find their footing. And this, to me, is a dictionary definition of a must-win for the Philadelphia Eagles. Because Saquon's return, the first road game in the division, even though they beat the Browns, things went off the rails at the end of the game when Nick Sirianni was jawboning with the crowd, and I'm sure we'll get into that. There's a lot of questions about this team. It was Super Bowl or bust before the season, and things have been in fits and starts for this team. It's so important that they prove that they are in the playoff conversation. Right now, both of these teams, Giants and Eagles, season ends today. They're out of the playoff picture in the NFC. And for the Eagles, considering that they do have their franchise quarterback, for the Giants, you're not sure with Daniel Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And there was much higher expectations because the Eagles stole Saquon Barkley from the New York Giants, who, in my opinion, Pat, was the number one offseason acquisition of any team in the NFL. And so this is a emotional game. It's a game for the Eagles' psyche. It's a game for the Eagles' positioning. But most important, it's really a game for number 26.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Number one acquisition in the NFL this past offseason. You mentioned Nick Sirianni. I wanted to get into that a little bit. The Eagles head coach comes off a bye week, new haircut, yelling at the home crowd after a narrow win over a bad team. Sal, can you put into proper context for people on the outside how much pressure is on Sirianni in the immediacy of this game? And is that informing maybe the way he's behaving, the urgency he's showing, the emotion that is coming out now? So what are the stakes for him in this game? And then I just want to know your opinion of how he conducts himself, because we can see a 10-second snippet on SportsCenter, but I want to know from you, knowing him, knowing the Eagles organization, what you feel about his leadership and just how he's carrying himself.
Super complex answer for you, Pat, but I'm going to try to boil it down into 3 areas. Number one, let's talk about the incident. The incident was fairly benign. The fan in the stands who was jawboning with Nick Sirianni came out with a statement and said it was harmless. All I said to him was run the ball in the first quarter, and I was harping on him, run the football, give it to Saquon Barkley. Actually, he was talking about Saquon Barkley. And after the game, Nick went up to him and said, hey, I told you I was going to run the ball. So it wasn't aggressive. It wasn't profane. It was a bad, bad look. I don't like all the name calling of Nick Sirianni. I just don't, because of the context or perspective of what went on the field. You've been at Lincoln Financial Field. I've been covering the team for 30 years, starting at Veterans Stadium. Philadelphia, Lincoln Financial Field is a wild thunderdome of vile hate. The fans I call the children of a lesser God. They're out of control. I love them. They've given me my career. I love the passion of it. But, you know, the way that has been portrayed is that, oh, well, fans were, quote, voicing their displeasure. That's the ultimate euphemism. My wife voices her displeasure at me when I don't take out the trash in the kitchen. That's much different than the language that goes on at Lincoln Financial Field. Now, Nick Sirianni should definitely not engage the fans. He should be focused on his football team at the end of the game. My opinion is, and this is something that I learned very early on in life, it's not how you act, it's how you react that separates the haves from the have-nots. And it's very important for Nick Sirianni to understand that. And he does. It was obviously something that the organization was not comfortable with. Fans were not comfortable with it. The national media was not comfortable with it. The next day he apologized. So move on from that. How much pressure is on him? I don't think that much. This is my opinion, my view of the situation. Kellen Moore's in charge of the offense. Vic Fangio's in charge of the defense. I think Nick Sirianni is playing with house money. Whether the Eagles win or lose, his tenure next year is not going to be decided about what happens with what he does. He has to get his act together, obviously. But whether this offense functions properly. He only scored 20 points against the Cleveland Browns. The Eagles defense got it together last week, 5 sacks. The rush yards after contact was way down. So tackling is better. Vic Fangio's practices have become longer. That's an interesting little development that's gone on in NovaCare to try to get this defense right. The defense is not as good as the Giants defense. Shane Bowen is, you look at, we have a piece last week on the NFL matchup show that Greg Cosell did showing how good this Giants defense is. The scheme is good. The players are really believing in the scheme and responding. Shane Bowen, acolyte of Dean Pease. There's a reason why Baltimore rehired Dean Pease as a defensive consultant for the Ravens. He's really good. And he taught Shane Bowen everything he knows. That all comes from Belichick, by the way. Shane Bowen can coach, and that defense is good. So the Eagles have to get their act together, especially in the first quarter. They're the only team that hasn't scored a point in the first quarter of the season.
What a crazy stat. I'll be the first one to raise my hand, by the way, Sal, and say I did not see the Shane Bowen, like, Giants strong defense and improving every week coming. I thought, and especially early, there was a lot of chatter, even in the locker room, that the adjustment to a new scheme was something they were struggling with. And so the game against Seattle that they just turned in, the game against the Cincinnati Bengals they just turned in, the Giants should be a better team with how that defense is playing. You're absolutely right. And Shane Bowen absolutely deserves.
It's a lockdown scheme. It really works if you have the right players. And the scheme is this: we're going to rush the passer with whatever it takes. We're going to lock down your number one target. Through our film study, we're going to realize by formation or down in distance or time of the game who you're going to go to. We're going to lock down that guy, and we're going to get after the quarterback, and we're going to play too deep so we don't give up the big pass. And this is a scheme that basically almost every NFL defensive coordinator tries to duplicate. But if you don't have the players, it's hard to do. And you really have to practice hard and keep players on the straight and narrow to make sure there wasn't working early on for the Eagles. They weren't able to lock down. One thing to watch on the Eagles defense, the addition of Cooper DeJean, the rookie safety that Vic Fangio banged the table for the Eagles to draft in the second round. They put him in the slot, and he is running some really good slot corner blitzes that they used last week against Deshaun Watson. You will see that in this game against Daniel Jones.
Interesting. So let's talk the X's and O's of the Giants defense and how it affects the Eagles for a second. You mentioned how strong the scheme is and the two deep safety taking away the deep pass. So I know a lot of the conversation around Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense is about Hurts not throwing the ball over the middle of the field, even routes not being run necessarily as consistently over the middle of the field. Also, Sal, what we saw against Cincinnati, Shane Bowen, it's almost like Patrick Mahomes, the way he was being defended a couple years ago, where teams started dropping into two deep safety and saying, we'll let you beat us on a 15-play drive. We're not going to let you beat us on a 3-play drive. My question to you is, the way Hurts is playing, the way you see him playing, and the way the Eagles scheme on offense, do you think they would be patient enough and good enough on offense to matriculate down the field against a drop zone, as they would say? Or are they the kind of team, just like we saw with the Bengals, where the quarterback is going to want that 9 route to A.J. Brown? He's going to want and force those throws over top. How do you see that playing out?
And that's a great question, Pat. And you hit the nail on the head for Jalen Hurts. Last week, he had no turnovers for the first time in 10 games. And he was throwing those interceptions over the middle of the field. That's why they pretty much have eliminated a lot of those over the middle throws. You see the 9 route that A.J. Brown ran against the Browns. That was an outside route. You see the Devontae Smith route. That was a rotating wheel route that Smith ran, and it was also outside the hash marks, and Smith goes down the sideline. The linebacker who was supposed to interfere there slipped, busted coverage in Jim Schwartz's defense. There won't be busted coverages in Shane Bowen's defense. I haven't seen very many in the last 2 or 3 games. Right. So they take away the middle because he doesn't have a lot of success over the middle. So he's got, against Shane Bowen, he's got to be quick, but he's got to be patient. And those things are not contradictory. He has to be quick because Shane Bowen will bring quick pressure in the face of Jalen Hurts. So make sure in the face of that quick pressure, the ball comes out quickly. Not easy to do. But he also has to be patient when he goes downfield because Bowen floods different areas and entices guys to throw interceptions, just like Dean Pease did, just like Belichick did. So don't throw the ball into double or triple coverage. Be patient, throw it away if you have to, or get that outlet to Saquon Barkley.
One thing I'm interested in this game is watching in the last couple of weeks, despite the strong defense the Giants have played, one thing that's killed them, oddly, Sal, is quarterback scrambles. Geno Smith late in the game had a huge one that nearly cost them in a comeback for Seattle at home out in the Pacific Northwest. Joe Burrow hit that 47-yard touchdown on a 3rd and 18, tied for the longest rush ever against the Giants defense by a quarterback since the merger with Cam Newton back in 2015. You didn't think Cam Newton and Joe Burrow would go together in rushing. And Jalen Hurts, obviously, if he can get out and get through that B gap and get going, the Giants would be in trouble. And this takes me to Saquon Barkley. You mentioned right at the start of the conversation, you felt like he was the best acquisition of the offseason of any team. I think the run action, just a simple read option for the quarterback in either handing to Saquon or going, is going to give the Giants fits. But the question for you is, for Saquon, why has he been such an excellent addition for the Eagles specifically? And then in this game, how do you see him fitting in? And do you think he is primed for a monster game against his old team?
And not a monolithic answer to that, but I'll take it in 2 parts. Number one, the problem is the running quarterback for this defense. Dean Pease, he coaches against Lamar Jackson all week long. So he understands what the problem is with that defense when a running quarterback. He had a problem with Jaden Daniels last week when they went in there. And this is a problem for this defense because if you're playing man-to-man and the backs are turned to the quarterback's got to go. It's evacuation time. And so the Giants will have to employ a spy. Roquan Smith last week was employed as a spy against Jaden Daniels. I don't know who the Giants will use, but that's something we will watch early in the game. And that takes somebody out of coverage. That takes somebody out of a possible blitz because Jalen Hurts can run. I think you're going to see Saquon. If they're smart, they will split Saquon wide in this game against the Giants. Move a linebacker out of the middle of the field so that it gives Jalen Hurts an extra spot to run into if he wants to. They have to isolate Saquon on a linebacker, one, to get favorable matchup so that Saquon can win, and 2, so that you get a linebacker out of the gaps where Jalen Hurts is going to run. And if they're smart, they will do that. I saw them do it a lot in training camp. Now, as for Saquon, such a great teammate, such a great leader, man of the year candidate for the New York Giants. He'll be a man of the year candidate for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think early on, he was so good at calming things down. Now, I'm not so sure where he's at. Only 20 touches last week. Not enough. I don't care what the defense is throwing at you. Feature Saquon as much as possible early in the game. Don't abandon him and make them defend him. Make them defend him with linebackers and safeties, and that will open up things for Smith and Brown. I'm talking like an offensive coordinator, which I'm not, but it seems to me counterintuitive to take Saquon out of the game plan in the first quarter. You haven't scored any points in the first quarter, Pat. 5 opening drives. They have 1 first down, 22 yards, 5 opening drives. 1 first down, 22 yards. And you know what they say, and Dan Orlovsky said this on Get Up yesterday. The beginning of the game is about coaching. The beginning of the game is about coaching. The end of the game is about players. At the end of the game, the players decide the game. At the beginning of the game, the coaches decide the game. There was always a slogan, I remember, in Washington with Joe Gibbs: we decide who wins. And that's what coaches need to do in the first quarter. We decide through our preparation, game plan, scheme, and athletes. We decide who wins in the first quarter.
Yeah, if your offense is worst when you're scripting it, that's not a good sign for your coaching staff. I think you're absolutely right, too, on offense. It's probably even difficult just for Jalen Hurts under center because he likes A.J. Brown so much. He's a security blanket, and he and Devontae Smith do win their one-on-ones. But you do need to commit to Saquon Barkley. You do need to commit to the run, because as much as the Giants are vulnerable at times to a big pass play to this number one receiver, because they're playing well as a unit, but Deonte Banks is still growing, still developing as a corner. So you do see opportunities there, but they really haven't stopped the run very well consistently throughout, as much as you would think based on the numbers when you look at the final point totals. And so if the Eagles commit to it and stick to it, I think that they'll have success there. Now, you mentioned on the defensive side for Philadelphia that they're running longer practices, the defense and Vic Fangio, they're putting in more time there. Sal, from the outside looking in, the Eagles defense looks extremely flawed, looks like they don't tackle well. But are you saying that you're seeing some improvement, and that come Sunday against the Giants, we're going to see a little bit of an improved version maybe of the Birds on defense?
Yeah, I actually have the numbers here, Pat. Just so I was preparing for your show. Eagles yards after contact allowed, which is the stat that basically measures missed tackles, because it's the most accurate way to measure it. This comes from ESPN Stats and Information. Now, week 4 against the Bucs, the Eagles defense allowed 150 yards after contact. That's a lot of missed tackles. So that was a point of emphasis during the bye. It was one of the major reasons why they lost the game in Tampa. Nick Sirianni talked about it right after the game and said, this is what we'll work on. And they did work on it. Versus the Browns, yards after contact, 63. So they went from 150 to 63. Now, you have to obviously factor in that the Browns are totally dysfunctional on offense. They didn't have Nick Chubb. So that was, there is that. But
factor, yeah.
Yes, but so it's not again the end all be all end all for whether or not the Eagles are playing better defensively. But they did have 5 sacks. Yards after contact was down. It is a point of emphasis, and they know against the Giants they're going to have to be good. They have to go on the road and win a football game. They went to Brazil and they won. They went to New Orleans and they won. They went to Tampa and they got boat raced. They need to win 2 games in a row. Super, super important game for the Eagles defense.
A couple more questions coming for you, Sal. I just want to tell our viewers about our sponsors really quick. MyBookie. Go to MyBookie to make this football season a winning season. Rolling out the red carpet for sports bettors. Use the promo code PATPICKS at the link in all of my social media profiles and get a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. Also brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants, and heart-healthy compounds. Use the Talking Ball 25 code or the QR code on your screen and get 25% off your first subscribe and save order at boomchaga.com. Also brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. estate98.com/talkingball for your special buy one, get one free deal. Sal,
I got to try that mushroom drink. That sounds pretty good. I'm all about antioxidants, Pat.
Oh, I'm getting you a sample immediately.
Yeah, bring one to MetLife when I see you. I want to check it out. But, you have your mybookie.com. So here's some numbers for you. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's go. All right.
This is from ESPN Bet Live, and we're going to do this on Sunday morning. The Eagles are 1-7 against the spread in the last 8 games as a favorite. Let me repeat that. The Eagles are 1-7 against the spread in the last 8 games as a favorite, and they are favored in this game. The Eagles are 0-5 against the spread in the last 5 games as road favorites. Wow. So there are 2 major betting trends that the Eagles are bucking in this football game. I'll give you one more. The Eagles have failed to cover in 3 straight as a favorite. 3 major betting trends that the Eagles are swimming against as they drive up the turnpike. Make that left at 16W, which I will do early Sunday morning. Get into the swamp and take on the New York Giants, where they lost twice last year. A lot of stuff going on. The psyche of this game is crazy. Lost to the Jets. We were there January 7th. I thought that was the worst loss of the Eagles in a long, long time.
Terrible. Excellent stats, Sal. Okay, so a couple quick more questions. One, What do you think is a bigger loss at left tackle? Jordan Mailata not playing for the Eagles in this game, or Andrew Thomas not playing for the Giants?
I think it's Andrew Thomas because Thomas is their best offensive lineman.
Yeah, and right there, I think Fred Johnson is the left tackle maybe who is replacing Jordan Mailata for this game. The Giants, as we sit here right now, it looks like it's going to be Josh Ezeudu, who was unfortunately the guy who was playing left tackle last year when Daniel Jones got blown up and hurt his neck in Miami in week 5. So knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen and he gets out of this game healthy.
Love Daniel Jones, such a tough player. I mean, I've always loved the fact that he just takes the hits, never complains, great teammate. Well, he's just fantastic. I call him Little Eli, man.
That was my next question was going to be, so Sal, up here in New York, New Jersey, northern New Jersey, the fans are treating this like the Giants are a better team, but their quarterback's not good enough. The fan base right now says, get rid of Daniel Jones, retire Daniel Jones. We want a new quarterback. What do you think about Daniel as the future of the Giants quarterback position? They paid him like it. He's 2 weeks removed from having a game like it in Seattle. But whenever they lay an egg at home, which they have been prone to do several times now this season, the fan base turns. And it feels like at this moment, they're not interested in turning back. But what do you think of Daniel and whether he will continue through this season and beyond, whether he should continue through the season and beyond as their franchise QB?
Well, I was there on draft day, and through your reporting and some others and mine, it was pretty clear that the Giants were trying to go up and get a quarterback. And that certainly was the case, at postscript. We found out that they certainly were. So I don't know about the future of Daniel Jones there. I root for Daniel Jones. I think he has a future in the National Football League. It may not be with New York, with the New York Giants. But, now you got to do everything possible to protect him. You got to find a way to make sure that this season doesn't go like it went last season. And if you're without your left tackle, the most important thing is to give that left tackle help and get the ball out quickly. Daniel can't hold on to the ball. And Daniel should use his legs in this game. Daniel's, he's a fast runner. He's a good runner. He should use his legs in this football game. Malik Neighbors is going to be back. You don't know to what extent. He's got a little bit of a groin issue, I heard.
Yeah.
So he is on the injury report with a groin issue. So he's coming back from the concussion. I'm interested to see just how productive he is in this football game. There's so many question marks going into this game. I think it's one of the most fascinating games between these two teams in a very, very long time. So much on the line for both organizations, both head coaches, both quarterbacks. Everywhere you look, people have something at stake in this game that if it doesn't go the way they want it to, things could get pretty bad.
Frankly, Sal, I know that neither of these teams look like a Super Bowl contender this year. I'm surprised this game was scheduled at 1:00 on a Sunday and never moved.
I'm not. You don't want people from New York and Philadelphia out in the parking lot for that many hours before they go into MetLife Stadium or Lincoln Financial.
I didn't even think of that strategy.
No. You don't want that to happen. Never have a Giants at Eagles game at 4:00 or a Sunday night. No.
Oh, good point. To counter your Eagles stats, so just to illustrate the stakes for the Giants, if they lose this game, and this is for Joe Shane and Brian Dable too, they will fall to 0-4 at home this season, 0-3 in the division this season. And Sal, listen to this stat. They will fall, if they lose this game, they will fall to, against the Cowboys and Eagles, head-to-head, since they took over in 2022. Their record will be 1-10-0 in their head-to-heads against the Giants' two biggest rivals.
A lot at stake. A lot at stake, Pat Leonard. A lot at stake.
A ton at stake for the Giants, a ton at stake for the Eagles. Sal Pal, thank you so much for breaking it all down. He is the great Sal Paolantonio, ESPN national correspondent. The book, as you already know, is How Football Explains America. New version out now. Go get it wherever books are sold. Sal, thank you so much for being here.
And there's a lot of Eli Manning in that book, a lot. Many chapters about Eli Manning, so Giants fans will enjoy it.
All right. Yeah, Giants fans, NFL fans everywhere, pick it up today. Thanks, Sal. That was the great Sal Paolantonio from ESPN. How Football Explains America. Go get the book. We are sponsored here by MyBookie. MyBookie.ag is rolling out the red carpet for sports bettors in its 10th year of operation. And if you want to make this football season a winning season, you need to go to MyBookie. If you're already a member, they have a new loyalty rewards program, MyBookie Plus, where you can get exclusive giveaways, promotions, cash back in your account. But the best deal right now going, use the promo code PATSPICKS at the link in my social media profiles everywhere, on my X account, PLeonardNYDN, and on my Instagram, TikTok, Threads, YouTube, PL on NFL. Go to that link and use the Pats Picks promo code to get a 100% match on your first deposit of $50 or more, all the way up to $1,000, plus a $10 casino chip. MyBookie, bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Also brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants, and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkingBall25 or access it through the QR code on your screen, you'll get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com, and brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar, convenient for on-the-go coffee drinkers. Takes me 10 seconds to make a delicious Estate 98 iced coffee and only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte with this all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar. Use the link estate98.com/talkingball to get a special buy one, get one free deal today. See you next time on Talking Ball with Pat Leonard. Enjoy Giants Eagles. We will be at MetLife Stadium in the press box for Talking Ball post-game live after Saquon Barkley's return to break it all down once we talk to Brian Daboll and the players in the locker room. See you then.